After my dad's funeral, while everyone was discussing how to divide his money and stocks, my brother-in-law, married to my sister Lauren, suddenly claimed that Lauren should get everything, including $10 million, because she was the oldest sibling. They were happy about this, but the lawyer told them they couldn't decide that on their own. My name is Adam Smith. I'm 43 years old, work in sales, and have a wife and 3 kids. My dad owned a large part of a company and kept working even though he was old. My sister Lauren, who is older than me, has always been a troublemaker for our parents with her bad behavior. Now in her middle years, she still doesn't have a steady job and lives as she pleases. I never liked her much, so I kept my distance. When Lauren turned 52, she suddenly announced she was getting married to a younger guy named Henry Cavill. Henry is good-looking but lazy and unpleasant. Lauren started asking Dad for money for the wedding and spent it quickly, then asked for more, which upset Dad. She assumed she would inherit everything eventually. Less than a year after her marriage, Dad had a heart attack while playing golf and passed away a few days later. His death hit me hard, and I felt very sad. His friends were shocked, and our phones didn't stop ringing with condolences. Despite my grief, I helped my stunned mom with all the funeral arrangements because, as usual, Lauren was nowhere to be found. After the funeral, Mom and I finally got a chance to rest, but the next day, a lawyer came to talk about Dad's will. Mom and I already knew about it. Mom and I already knew what was in the will, but my sister and her husband barged in without any idea and made a shocking claim. They said all of Dad's stocks and the $10 million inheritance would go to Lauren, the oldest daughter, and that everyone else should back off. Mom and I were speechless at their nerve. My brother-in-law cheered. "We did it, Lauren. Now we're set for life," as he fist-pumped with joy. The lawyer, looking surprised, interrupted. "Hold on a minute." My sister glared at him, but he gave her a stern look and said, "Lauren, you're not entitled to any inheritance." My sister and her husband were stunned and protested, saying, "That can't be right. Lauren is the oldest daughter. She should get everything." It was clear my brother-in-law had been counting on that inheritance. The lawyer then revealed, "Did you not know? Lauren is not Mr. Smith's biological child." Suddenly, my sister's face turned pale, and she looked at our mother. Mom wore a complex expression. I had always known Lauren was a half-sibling, but it seemed she had been kept in the dark. Lauren, almost frantic, shook our mother, demanding, "Mom, what does this mean?" "Lauren, you're from my previous marriage," our mother muttered, shaken by Lauren's grip. Lauren, who had often teased me about being the favorite child, now looked stunned. Her husband interjected, "But as she was legally adopted, she should still have inheritance rights, right?" Lauren agreed, "Yes, that's what I thought." Our mother shook her head, explaining there had been no legal adoption. Both my sister and her husband were incredulous. "That can't be. I'm the oldest daughter. Even Dad said so," Lauren argued. Then, turning her anger towards me, she snapped, "I'm not letting you take everything." I responded, irritated by her entitlement. "After all the support Dad gave you, you still say that. Be quiet. I'm his rightful heir." My sister and her husband protested, but I sighed, feeling the weight of the situation. While it's normal for parents to support their children, you have been using Dad's money to settle debts and deal with various troubles. Our mother suggested, "Why don't we let Lauren see the will too?" Lauren panicked. "I have no idea about that. It was her own fault for not paying attention when Dad wanted us all to discuss the will's contents. She had brushed it off and went out instead." When I pointed this out, my brother-in-law gave Lauren a fierce glare. "What were you thinking?" This was important. Faced with the situation, they agreed to listen. The lawyer then revealed Dad's will, which stated clearly that the inheritance was for me and Mom. It also explained that Dad had initially planned to adopt my sister but changed his mind due to her behavior and reckless spending. Realizing she had no inheritance rights, my sister was stunned. "Darn it, what now?" she muttered. Suddenly, my brother-in-law raised his voice. "You lied to me. You said you had money." His demeanor turned aggressive, shocking both my mother and sister, but not me. I had seen his greed before. He might have married Lauren for her money. "Lauren, don't come back until you've got some money," he commanded. "Wait, Henry, what do you mean? I thought I was going to be wealthy. What a letdown," he snapped, pushing past her and storming out of the room. Left behind, my sister glared at us, angry and upset. "Mom, why didn't you have me adopted? It's not fair that only you get the inheritance. I should have gotten something too, but you didn't handle it right." "This is awful," she cried, making a scene. I was taken aback by her outburst, but the lawyer seemed unfazed, maybe used to such drama. "Why does he get everything?" she yelled. "Because I'm Dad's son," I replied. Her eyes filled with anger as she lunged at me, shouting, "It would have been better if you were never born." I thought to myself that even if I hadn't existed, Dad would likely have made the same decision given her character. Before I could say anything, the lawyer calmly intervened. "Lauren, if you continue like this, it will involve the police." My sister flinched, possibly recalling her past shoplifting incidents. "Lauren," our mother called out, tears in her eyes. 5 months later, the inheritance proceedings went smoothly. Though my sister and brother-in-law grumbled for a bit, the lawyer's efficient management left them no room to interfere. My mother gave my sister some money, but I refrained from commenting on it. What bothered me most was their sudden disappearance with the funds, displaying their blatant gold-digging behavior. This left a sour taste in the mouths of our relatives who knew the situation. Took my mother, wife, and daughter out for a meal. Thanks to my wife's suggestion, my mother, who had been somewhat withdrawn since Dad's passing, seemed more cheerful around her adorable granddaughter. "Hey, Mom, why don't you come live with us?" I proposed. "But Lauren might drop by sometimes. She only shows up when she needs money, right? Don't be too accommodating with her." My mother hesitated. Understandable, since Lauren is her biological daughter. Plus, if our family moved into the family home, Lauren might cause trouble again. Respecting her concerns, I asked her to think it over as I drove towards the family home to drop her off. As we pulled up, we noticed lights on in the supposedly empty house. It wasn't time for the helper to be there, so maybe my sister had returned. With that in mind, I parked the car in the garage. "Let's pop in for a quick coffee," I suggested. As we stepped out of the car and headed towards the entrance, a car suddenly swerved towards us, narrowly missing us. Reacting to my daughter's cry, I instinctively shielded my wife. Ouch! Thankfully, the car only grazed me, but I was thrown into a nearby flower bed, taking a hard knock. The car came to a halt after hitting the garage entrance. "Are you all right, honey?" My wife and daughter rushed over to help me up while my mother stood trembling at the entrance, understandably shaken. Panic ensued. I was rushed to the hospital by ambulance and had to stay overnight. Later, I learned that the driver was Henry Cavill, my brother-in-law. He claimed to the police that he mistook the accelerator for the brake, but I doubted his explanation. When my mother and sister visited me in the hospital, my sister looked at me coldly and remarked, "You're surprisingly resilient, aren't you?" I couldn't help but think that if I had been seriously injured, my mother would have inherited everything. "Too bad for you," I said with a smirk. My sister visibly tensed. "You were counting on it, weren't you?" I noticed her discomfort as she looked away. "Well, Mom told me she plans to waive her inheritance for me, so causing such an accident was pointless." My sister seemed taken aback by this revelation. It appeared incomprehensible to her that someone would refuse what they could inherit. I have a wife and kids, so Mom asked me to pass it on to them. That's what parents do. But my sister stuttered. Even made a will early on, following Dad's example. This left my sister speechless. So, unfortunately, my share won't be going to Mom anymore, I said. My sister trembled as she stared at me. Can't you at least give me some? There's $10 million, right? When I firmly refused, my sister's face twisted with anger as she grabbed my collar. Give me half. I'm your sister. I looked at her with pity as she continued to scream, driven by greed. Don't you realize that your greed would disappoint Dad? Her face flushed with anger as she reached for my throat. Lauren, what are you doing? My mother shouted, returning just as nurses arrived to escort my sister out. My mother seemed inclined to defend her, but it was clear my sister had also insulted her. Where did I go wrong in raising her? Mom said, sadness in her voice. Shortly after, my mother fell ill. As her condition worsened, my wife and I helped with transportation and household tasks at the family home. This upset my sister, likely because she encountered my wife during her visits to ask for money or heard about our help from our mother. One day, my sister called me abruptly. From now on, we'll take care of Mom. You two don't need to come, she declared. What's this all about? I tried to reason with her, but she hung up, claiming it was already decided. I confirmed with my wife, who had received the same message and been dismissed. Concerned about my sister's lack of experience in caregiving or household duties, I quickly reached out to my mother. Surprisingly, my brother-in-law had some caregiving experience. At that point, my mother was still quite independent, so it seemed manageable for the time being. I felt a bit relieved. However, within a month, my mother was rushed to the hospital by ambulance due to a medication dosage error. She appeared alarmingly frail when we arrived. The doctor was puzzled. My mother had never made such a mistake before. While my wife stayed with her, I went back to the family home, which was in Desiree. The fridge was empty despite my mother's love for cooking, and it seemed the hired help had been canceled without discussion. I felt ashamed for even considering trusting my sister and was furious. A significant amount of money had been withdrawn from my mother's bank account, even though her bank card and PIN were secured in the safe. Thankfully, the inheritance account was untouched in a safe deposit box, but most of the funds for living expenses were gone. I gathered essential items for my mother's hospital stay, including her bank card, and returned to explain the situation to her. Dear Lauren, I started. My mother seemed unaware of the bank card situation. When I asked about the medication error, she looked somber and confessed that my brother-in-law had prepared it. Mom, maybe it's best not to allow my sister into the house anymore, I suggested. Adam, I promised to take care of you, but the house is in such disarray, and you've lost so much weight. Have you been eating properly? My mother's words weighed heavily on me. Mom, you should come live with us. I'll build a home where we can all be together, I proposed, causing my mother to break down in tears. Despite the doctor's efforts, her health continued to deteriorate. The incident with my sister had likely weakened her heart, and she never recovered. She eventually passed away, almost as if following my father. Upon returning to the family home to make funeral arrangements, I discovered that all the valuables were gone. It appeared my sister and brother-in-law had taken them in their desperate pursuit of money. Standing amidst the empty rooms, I was first shocked and then consumed by a fierce anger. I vowed to hold them accountable for their actions. The day after my mother's funeral, my sister and I were scheduled to meet with the lawyer, presumably to discuss the inheritance. Too bad, Mom's inheritance rightfully belongs to me, her daughter, my sister boldly declared. I couldn't help but chuckle at her statement, as it seemed she was gravely mistaken. Let's see what the will says, I suggested. As the lawyer unveiled the will, my sister's face drained of color. No, this can't be. Lauren is not entitled to inherit anything. That's Dad's final wish. My brother-in-law exploded in anger, sweeping items off the table. This is absurd. Lauren is that old woman's biological child, he argued. You can't deceive us. Give us the inheritance now. Henry, did you try to harm my mom? I confronted him. He shot me an irritated glare. What? I never did such a thing, he retorted. Then why was there a mistake with her medication? I asked. Pressed further, and my brother-in-law scowled in annoyance. Who cares about that, Adam? It's outrageous that we're not getting any inheritance. My sister, losing her composure, interjected, What have you done? I was stunned. It seemed she hadn't come rushing after hearing about our mother's passing, but was counting on the inheritance to cover her expenses. Tell me this isn't true. I'm getting nothing, my sister demanded of the lawyer. The lawyer began explaining the legal distribution of the inheritance. However, after deducting the amount my sister had withdrawn and the items she had sold, there was almost nothing left. She scratched her head in frustration. This outcome was reached after consulting with the lawyer in advance. I said, That can't be. It can't be this little, my sister muttered to herself, clearly dissatisfied. Having relied on our parents without ever experiencing the hardships of work, she seemed out of touch with reality. I couldn't contain my contempt. Mom thought you'd take care of her, but you just took her money and abandoned her. You ungrateful person. I couldn't hold back my anger. Taking care of someone costs money, you know. What are you talking about? My sister shot back. Then show me the detailed expenses you used for Mom's living costs. I'll cover the necessary expenses. I challenged her, extending my hand. My sister's face paled, and her lips trembled. I don't have that. Without receipts, it won't be recognized, the lawyer emphasized, leaving my sister speechless. Facing her, my brother-in-law attempted to sway me with a pleading tone. Adam, your sister really needs help. Can't you lend her a hand, even just a little? I declined firmly, feeling my frustration growing. It seemed my brother-in-law was reaching his limit too. If everything had gone as planned, Lauren would have had the entire inheritance by now, he muttered. What do you mean by that? I questioned, but before I could delve deeper, my brother-in-law let slip, because of this guy, nothing ever goes smoothly. I was supposed to get a new car, but all I got was barely enough for repairs. My sister desperately tried to interject, but it was too late. That's a serious accusation. It sounds like fraud, the lawyer remarked, holding her ground and smiling at the couple. What? That's illegal. I clearly stated at the outset that this meeting would be recorded, and you both agreed to it, my brother-in-law stammered, realizing his mistake. Declared, Henry, I'll be pressing charges for that accident. Don't be absurd. There's no evidence, he retorted, trying to dismiss my accusation. You've just provided the evidence yourself, I replied confidently. My sister burst into tears, shaking my brother-in-law in frustration. You fool. It's all your fault. What are we going to do now? Eventually, my brother-in-law faced criminal charges. His previous offenses also came to light, leading to his arrest by the police. My sister, implicated as an accomplice, received a lesser sentence. Unable to afford her rent, she sought help from relatives, but everyone turned her away. Her desperation grew, and she found herself isolated and struggling. I continued to work diligently without relying on any inheritance. My job in sales provided a stable income, and I took pride in supporting my family through my own efforts. Despite the tumultuous events, I found solace in the dividends from Dad's stocks, which provided a small but consistent source of additional income. My mother's passing had been a heavy blow, but I focused on building a strong, loving home for my wife and children. We moved forward together, finding strength in each other. The memories of my parents and the lessons they taught me guided my actions and decisions. Though my sister and brother-in-law's actions had caused turmoil, I chose to rise above the chaos. I invested wisely, saved diligently, and ensured my family's well-being. The hard-earned stability and the small pleasures of life, like the dividends from the stocks, were my rewards for perseverance and integrity. In the end, I knew that my father would be proud of how I handled the situation. The inheritance was not just about money. It was about upholding the values he instilled in me. I took comfort in knowing that I had honored his legacy through my actions.